Ladies and gentlemen, we have now officially reached the final episode of Temple by Temple featuring Ocarina of Time. In today's illustrious episode, we're going to be taking a look at one of my all-time favorite temples, the Spirit Temple. This is probably the most unique temple in Ocarina of Time, and I'm so excited to take a look at it. The Spirit Temple is found in the Desert Colossus, which is past the Forbidden Lands in Gerudo Valley. If you've never seen a Temple by Temple analysis video, then let me go ahead and break down how things are analyzed around here. I'll be taking a look at the entire lead up to the temple along everything inside I find important to talk about. At the end of the temple, I'll give it a standard tier list letter grade. Gold Skulltulas also won't be a huge factor in the temple's grade since I've never 100% at Ocarina of Time before. Also, this is more like an in-depth review than an analysis, but since I've already titled the rest of the Ocarina of Time videos as analysis videos, I thought it would be weird to break the trend on the final temple. Don't worry, I'll title future videos this way just so I don't upset random 40-year-olds on the internet. Kinda got off topic there, but without any further ado, let's get right into the review and grading of Ocarina of Time's Spirit Temple. After beating up the headless, goofy-looking spirit that is Bongo Bongo, we can make our way towards Gerudo Valley. You actually don't have to beat the Shadow Temple at all to progress onto the Spirit Temple. Technically, you don't need the Lens of Truth either if you know where to go, and even though I've played through this game multiple times, I still don't know where to go. As a kid, I didn't even make it to Gerudo Valley, nor did I even know that this place existed. This place is tucked away on the left side of Hyrule Field and in all honesty is pretty hidden. When you arrive, your ears get blessed with one of the best musical pieces ever created and a broken bridge. Using Epona though, we can jump across this bridge, allowing us to explore a bit more of this place. Alternatively, if you don't want to use Epona, you can even use the long shot or hover boots to get across the bridge. After a bit more riding, you'll eventually come across Gerudo Fortress. Now, while the lead up to the Spirit Temple doesn't have the traditional mini dungeons that we've seen with the Ice Cavern and Bottom of the Well, there are two challenge areas, I guess. The first one here is the Gerudo Fortress, where we have to save 4 different carpenters locked away by the Gerudo. If you're unaware, the Gerudo is an entire race of women with one man born every 100 years. They're not too fond of men if you can't tell. Luckily, they throw you in the worst jail cell ever and you can just use your hookshot to get out. To most, this place might not be that confusing, but in my personal experience, the Gerudo Fortress feels like a labyrinth. There's all sorts of different entrances to the place and a whole bunch of guards lurking around. In order to make things easier on yourself, you can shoot the guards with an arrow. Don't worry, as this doesn't kill them, it just knocks them out somehow. Once you find one of the 4 trapped carpenters, they'll call you over to their cell and plead with you to get them out of there. Before you can do so though, a Gerudo soldier appears behind Link and tries to run the ones with him. The Gerudo are also super well trained soldiers, making for a fun fight. There is one attack that looks like some sort of spinning jump attack that you'll need to look out for. If you get hit by that attack, you'll be knocked unconscious and put back in a jail cell. This adds a layer to the fight so that you don't just sit there and mindlessly swing your sword at her. When you defeat one of the guards, they'll drop a small key allowing you to free a carpenter. You have to go around to do this a whopping 4 times and the carpenters never really say anything of note. You have to do the exact same Gerudo fight to get a small key each time, and after the 4th and final carpenter is saved, a friendly Gerudo warrior confronts Link. She's very impressed with Link's skill and mentions their leader Nabooru along with her headquarters at the Spirit Temple. She's also nice enough to give us a Gerudo membership card, making us an honorary Gerudo, allowing us to roam around Gerudo Fortress freely. Fun fact, she also changes colors based on what type of tunic you're wearing. Before we head to the Spirit Temple though, there's a few things we can do around here. First and foremost, at the top of the fortress there's a big chest. You can either use the Scarecrow song and long shot to the Scarecrow, or you can just find the perfect position to long shot onto the chest. Inside of said chest is a piece of heart, which is always fun to collect. While we could head on over to the Spirit Temple, there's a couple more things to check out around here. There's a pathway near the fortress that leads to some type of shooting range. If you talk to the Gerudo while on Epona, she'll offer a little shooting range challenge, and she'll give you a reward if you do well. This is honestly pretty fun to go through, and it's challenging too. If you score 1,000 points, you'll be gifted a piece of heart, but if you want the ultimate prize of an upgraded quiver, you'll need to earn 1,500 points. The other thing that we can find is actually right outside the Gerudo Fortress. There's a Gerudo soldier standing right next to a door that's blocked off by a gate. If you talk to her and pay her 10 rupees, you'll be able to enter the Gerudo training grounds. While some may consider this place to be a mini dungeon, I more consider it to be its own separate challenge. Think of it like the Cave of Ordeals from Twilight Princess. The place also doesn't have a dungeon map or a compass, which is a staple of main dungeons in the game. We're not going to look at this place like how we look at normal temples and mini dungeons, but let's talk about it anyway. Obviously, this place is used to train the Gerudo warriors in all sorts of ways. There's countless rooms with each of them having their own separate challenge, mostly involving defeating a bunch of enemies. In the first room, there's 3 different pathways to take. The one in the middle takes you to a room with a ton of locked doors and a couple of chests along the way. The other two pathways lead you to trial rooms. Honestly, this is a pretty fun place to explore. In almost every room there's going to be a chest with a small key. There are a total of 9 keys hidden throughout the entire training grounds, but you only need 7 to get a grand prize. This place can be decently tricky if you're not big into exploration because there's all sorts of secrets in this place. You can't actually explore this whole place right now as you'll need the silver gauntlet, which, spoiler alert, you get from the spirit temple in order to move some things around. Luckily though, you don't need access to that room, so you can get the 7 keys you need without the silver gauntlets. Once you get all 7 keys from multiple different challenges, you can head to the center of the room and start unlocking doors. There's 2 separate pathways, one on the left and one on the right. The pathway on the right is just a distraction as it leads to nothing. Taking the left path, you'll find a bunch of chests giving you all sorts of goodies, eventually leading to a big chest. Inside this chest is one of the most useless items in the entire game, the ice arrows. You're most likely going to get these super late into the game, and they don't have any use throughout the rest of the game. They are decent in combat at freezing enemies, but I've never really used them. Apparently they're really useful against Bongo, so if you come here early, they might have a bit more use for you. With all of that out of the way, we can finally start making our way towards the Spirit Temple. If we climb up this ladder, we can talk to a Gerudo who will open up the gate leading us to the temple. She speaks about 2 trials, with one being called the River of Sand and the other being called the Phantom Guide. It's alright lady, I'm literally the chosen one, so you don't have to worry about me. Once we pass through the gate, we enter the Haunted Wasteland. I actually think that the Haunted Wasteland is a pretty cool area. You got this banging theme playing in your ears alongside sand taking up half your screen. There's some quicksand blocking the way, but you can either use your hover boots to walk across it or do what I do and long shot onto these boxes. In order to get to the second trial, we have to follow these flags, but we can take a detour to see this magic carpet guy. Eventually, we'll come across a little monument in an underground area we can go to. Down here, there's a gold skulltula and 2 unlit torches that when lit spawn in a chest containing a whopping 50 rupees. Well, this is a lot better than the amount of 5 rupee chests from the Shadow Temple, so I guess I can't complain. At the top, there's a little inscription that says the one with the Eye of Truth shall be guided to the Spirit Temple by an inviting ghost. Using the Lens of Truth, we can follow a ghost through the Haunted Wasteland. If you know the route, you don't need to follow him at all, but I'm not nearly that good. After following him for a bit, we eventually arrive at the Desert Colossus. This location houses the Spirit Temple, but before we go inside, there's something we need to do first. If we go towards these 2 palm trees and explode this wall, we can find a fairy fountain. Of course, we have to play Zelda's Lullaby in order to summon the Great Fairy, and she's kind enough to grant us with Nehru's Love, which when used halves the damage we take. Well, we can now finally go inside the Spirit Temple, but weirdly enough, there's nothing we can do in here. If we leave the temple, we'll be greeted by Sheik, where she says that we'll need to travel back through time in order to do anything inside the temple. Of course, Sheik also teaches us a song, and this time around we learn the Requiem of Spirit. Yet again, Sheik teaches us an absolutely beautiful piece of music that warps us to the Spirit Temple. After going back to the Temple of Time and changing back into Young Link, we can finally progress through the Spirit Temple. The Spirit Temple theme is an absolute banger. There's 4 different parts to the theme, and each one of them plays such an important part in making the atmosphere here pop. By far the most important part of the theme are these stupid flying pots right at the start of the temple. I'm just messing around. The actual theme starts with by far the most epic sound of all the temples yet. There's chimes and gongs in the background along with a synthesizer. Eventually some sort of woodwind melody comes along with some percussion in the background. While most of the temple's themes are either laid back or creepy sounding, the Spirit Temple is super in your face and really represents ancient Egyptian and Middle Eastern culture. The Ocarina of Time temple soundtrack is absolutely phenomenal, and the Spirit Temple theme is so freaking amazing. As we truly enter the temple and once again dodge some flying pots, we can spot some Gerudo woman trying to crawl through a hole in the wall. If we try to talk to her, she asks us what we want, and if we say nothing, she'll ask us to do her a solid. First though, we gotta clarify we're not one of Ganondorf's soldiers, which I mean, come on, does this little tyke really look like he'd be working with Ganon? If we say we hate him, she'll finally introduce herself as Nibiru and asks us to go retrieve the silver gauntlets from the temple. We're also promised something great if we do so, and coming from her, sounds like a nice incentive to me. When we crawl through the crawl space, we'll officially enter the first room of the child portion of the temple. Yeah, if you weren't aware, this is the only temple to utilize both young and adult Link. I guess if you're weird, you could classify the Shadow Temple as using both young and adult Link because of the bottom of the well, but that's a completely separate dungeon to the Shadow Temple. In this first room, there's some fire keys, blade traps, and an Armos in the center of the room. There's 2 locked doors, but once you take out all the enemies, they both unlock. Through the right door, there's not a whole lot we can do except light some torches that spawn in a chest we can't quite get to yet. Through the left door, we'll immediately be greeted by Astolphos. Once he's out of the way, we can use a boomerang to hit a switch that drops down a bridge, taking us to the other side of the room. The next room houses the first of many puzzles involving an Anubis. These guys mirror your movements, and the only way they can be defeated is by burning them in fire, which just so happens to appear if we hit this switch. The next room is the same room that the right door led us to, but this time we're on the other side of the gate. There's also 5 silver rupees that we can collect in order to lower a bridge to the other side of the room. We can also open the chest we spawned in earlier in order to get a small key. Now with the small key, we can head through a crawl space that I forgot to talk about earlier because I'm not good at my job. On the other side of the crawl space is a locked door that we can unlock with our small key. The next room greets us with a climbable wall and a couple of skull waltulas we need to take out first. At the top, we can see some sort of sun symbol on the floor, but before we deal with that, there's a couple of Lizalfos we need to deal with. With them out of the way, we can send a bomb shoe riding up the wall in order to shine a light on the sun symbol. Triggering that opens up a door to a room that connects both the adult and child parts of the dungeon. There's this giant statue in here representing the goddess of the sand, and another statue of this could be seen outside the temple earlier. In front of the statue are some unlit torches that when lit make a big chest appear containing the dungeon map. Also, if you're wondering why I'm Adult Link all of a sudden, I may or may not have forgotten that you could get the dungeon map as Child Link, so I apologize for the inconvenience. If we head back to where we entered the room, there's a statue that we can push onto a switch, opening up a door at the top of the steps. Through the door, we enter a snazzy looking hallway and then find another door. In here are a bunch of different BMOS and blade traps trying to get in the way of you completing some puzzles. I definitely recommend taking them out before doing the puzzles, but luckily, I'm an epic gamer, so that wasn't necessary for me. There's this movable block that has a sun symbol on it, and when moved into the light, unlocks the door to the next area. There also just happens to be 5 silver rupees in the room, and when they're all collected, make one of the torches in the room light up. We can then transfer the light from the torch to all the other torches in the room, which spawns in a chest containing a small key. Well, it's a good thing we did everything in here, because if we head to the next room, we'll see a locked door that needs unlocking. Through that door, we arrive at the boss for the child section of the Spirit Temple, an Iron Knuckle. These guys right here are some of the toughest enemies in the game. If you get hit by one of these fellas, you'll be getting a few hearts taken away from you. He moves pretty slowly though, so if you pay attention, he's definitely doable. If you also grabbed Nehru's Love earlier, you can make this fight even easier, but guess what? I didn't need to use it. And why is that, all my little Jickbean fans? Because I'm the greatest Ocarina of Time player to ever do it. After some slashing, the Iron Knuckle will go down and a new door opens. Through that door, we can actually get taken outside the temple where our old owl buddy Kepora Gebora is hanging out. He talks about how surprised he is with Link's growth and gives Link one last wise tip. He tells him that there are 2 witches who inhabit the temple and that in order to beat them, you'll have to use their own magic against them. Okay, bye Kepora Gebora, we love you. There's also a big chest containing the silver gauntlets that Naburu wanted earlier. Well, I guess we should go and give them to Naburu because I'm trying to see what that reward she was talking about is. Unfortunately though, she's getting attacked right outside the temple by the 2 witches our owl friend was talking about earlier. They make her sink in the sand, but eventually she succumbs to the sand and the witches fly off. So I guess getting that reward is going on hold, huh? But first we'll need to explore the rest of the temple. In order to do that though, we need to head back to the Temple of Time and transform back into Adult Link. Instead of going to the left side, we can now push a giant block on the right using our silver gauntlets. We can then find a similar looking room to the first room of the child portion, but with far less enemies. On the ceiling, there's a switch that gives you access to 2 different doors, however the door in the center of the room will require a small key. If we go through the left door, we can spot a Triforce symbol on the floor, but before we can play Zelda's Lullaby, a Wolfos appears that we have to fight. Once we get rid of him, we can play the princess's song and make a big chest appear on the other side of the room. We can then long shot over to it, open it, and obtain the compass. Now let's go back and head through the right door. This room right here is illustrious as it's our final silver rupee room of the main temple. Yeah, there's 3 different ones in Ganon's castle, but we're not covering that one quite yet. I know we've seen these kinds of rooms a lot recently, but I think this room might be my favorite of the bunch. They're not hard to get or anything, but I just think they're fun to collect, and you even get to have a different camera angle when going into these little cutouts. Oh yeah, you can even get a gold Skulltula token if you move this block of time out of the way. Once you get all 5 rubies, we can enter a little room with a small chest and that stupid shield and tunic stealing fiend. After taking that loser out, we can open the chest and obtain a small key. Now we can head through the locked door from earlier and enter a straightforward hallway with another one of these like losers blocking the way. Past him, there's a wall we can climb up and we'll come across our very first instance of mirrors in the temple. Light puzzles are a staple of the Zelda series, and reflecting light onto these sun symbols is pretty satisfying. There are a couple of wrong choices here, but when we hit the right sun symbol, we can continue on through the temple. We then enter the connecting room where we can access a higher area using the hover boots. We finally get to use the Megaton Hammer again, as there's one of these rusted looking switches that we need to hit. Was it really that hard to come up with new puzzles using the Megaton Hammer, Nintendo? Hammers are freaking awesome, and all you can think of is a rusted switch? While we're up here, we can climb onto one of the statue's hands where there's a Triforce symbol. Once we play Zelda's Lullaby, a chest appears on the other hand that when long-shotted over to and opened grants us with a small key. You guys want to know something super funny though? So you remember that rusted switch that we hit a little bit ago? Yeah, all that did was open up a door that sends us back to the very first room of the temple, just so there's a shortcut from there. So you're telling me that you can't even make using the Megaton Hammer required, and people call this the greatest game of all time? Anyways, at the top of the adult side stairs is a locked door, so why not unlock it? The next room has some stairs and a BMOS trying to prevent you from walking up said stairs. Through the next door is another room where we have to take out some of these Anubises, Anubi, whatever. This room is much harder than the last time we fought some of these guys. There's not really a whole lot of room to guide these fellers into the fire. If only I had remembered that you can just use the fire arrows to take these guys out, maybe I wouldn't have struggled nearly as much. Once they're taken out, a door unlocks, taking us into a very weird room in my opinion. There's some armos surrounding a switch and you have to get one of them to jump onto it, unlocking a door. Through that now unlocked door is an intimidating staircase leading to a mini-boss. We have to fight another Iron Knuckle and he's still fun to fight as Adult Link. These guys aren't nearly as hard, but once again, if you get hit, things are going to start looking dire. Once he's defeated, a door opens, allowing us to go outside once again. We're greeted by another chest, but this time around we get the mirror shield. Fun fact, the shield was actually censored as it used to have a crescent moon and star on it, however Nintendo removed it as it was an Islamic symbol. Come on, don't be surprised, we know how Nintendo acts with religion. With the mirror shield now acquired, we can head back to the Armos room where there's a sun symbol that we can reflect light onto if we stand under the sunlight. Doing so opens up a door leading to a chest containing a small key. With that small key, we can head through the locked door in the Anubis killing room. This takes us to the single most frustrating room to me because I'm a moron. There's two BMOS we need to deal with first, and then we can climb this behemoth of a wall. The climbable parts of the wall move, so you have to time when you climb. The first section isn't that bad, but the second half is just brutal. Luckily though, you can actually just use your long shot in order to skip most of the area. I wish I would have thought of that a lot sooner because I spent way too much time trying to actually climb this stupid thing. Once you reach the top, there's more BMOS to bomb and a door we can go through. This leads to a hallway with two separate doors, and in front of one of them is a Triforce symbol. Believe it or not, playing Zelda's Lullaby actually unlocks this door and we can enter the next area. This is another weird room with a bunch of fire slugs in here to deal with. There's some sort of ice block above us and a certain colorful chest encased in lava. The room is also covered in fake doors, and if you take down this specific door, you can spot an ice switch which somehow makes another ice block appear up above. This allows us to hookshot up to both ice blocks where there's a switch we can hit in order to dispel the flames blocking the boss chest. Obviously inside the boss chest is the boss key, and with this room done we can backtrack to the other door in the hallway. There's some flying pots in here and a switch behind bars that we can hit with our sword. This opens up a door to a few rooms where we need to move some mirrors. However, these Lizalfos and white bubbles don't want you to progress through the temple for some reason. There seems to be nowhere for the light from the mirror to go, but there's actually a bombable wall that opens up another room with a mirror. We can then send the light into a mirror that was in the first room of this area. If we go under it and shine it at this sun symbol, the platform we're standing on descends into the connecting statue room. If we reflect the light from our shield onto the statue, its face begins to crumble, revealing a pathway to the boss room. It seems like we need to do something to lower the gate, but all we need to do is hookshot over to it as we enter the boss room. The very first thing we see is the two witches, Komei and Kotaka, as they run away while we fight the third Iron Knuckle of the temple. This one's different though, because after a bit we knock the armor off and it turns out Naburu is inside the Iron Knuckle. Turns out she's been cursed by the witch twins, and while she tries to run away, they throw some sort of magic ball at her, making her evaporate. We can then go through a couple of doors and enter the true boss room. There's a giant platform we can climb up, and we're greeted with a cutscene with the witches. They talk a lot of trash and speak about how they're mothers of Ganondorf as the Twinrova boss fight begins. Now I know I've talked a lot of crap about the bosses in most of the temples, but I gotta be honest, I really like this one. This fight has two different phases, with the first one needing you to reflect the powers of one witch onto the other witch using the mirror shield. It can be a bit annoying at times, but I've always found it fun to perform. After doing that for a bit, the second phase of the fight starts as the two witches turn into one sexy mama. I mean, Link even gets a bit excited seeing them. This phase of the fight is a lot easier than the first one, as this time you just absorb the different elemental powers of the witches. You have to absorb the power a couple of times before you're able to unleash your own magic attack on Twinrova. This stuns them, and then you can jump on over to them and unleash the power of the Master Sword, or in this case the Bigoron Sword. This is probably my favorite boss fight in the entire game for its creativity and awesome boss design. After doing those things for a bit, we're finally able to defeat Twinrova as they ascend into heaven, which feels a bit odd. Of course, with them gone, we can collect our patented heart container and take a trip to the spirit realm. Wow, shocking, it turns out Naburu is the Sage of Spirit. Who coulda thunked it? She says that instead of keeping the promise she made all those years ago, she'll aid us in the fight against Ganondorf as she gives us the Spirit Medallion. This isn't the gift I was thinking that we would get, but I guess I'll settle for it. Before we get sent back to the real world, Rauru pays us a visit and tells us that the time to fight Ganondorf is near and we should head to the Temple of Time, where the One is waiting for us. Sucks to be him though, because I got a temple to grade. The Spirit Temple is an absolutely phenomenal temple, having unique puzzles and unique gameplay. Like I said earlier, the Shadow Temple and Bottom of the Well was technically the first time we went back to Child Link in order to explore a dungeon, but the Spirit Temple just does it so much better. It uses so many things that only young Link can use in the puzzles. Light puzzles are a staple of Zelda games, and they're amazing here. The boss fights are also super fun and challenging, which seems to be a rarity in this game. I just don't see any other rating I can give the Spirit Temple other than S. It's such a fun temple to run through and really elevates the masterpiece that is Ocarina of Time. Well, there you have it. There's the Spirit Temple reviewed and graded. This episode concludes the Ocarina of Time temple by temple videos, and next week you'll be getting one big video combining every temple from the game. The next game we'll be covering in the series is Wind Waker, and I'm going to try something new over the next few weeks at least. I want to start doing a temple by temple video every other week, but I'll still be uploading weekly. I want to try some new things, take a look at other game franchises, and see what other types of videos you guys would enjoy. I'm not going to exclusively look at Nintendo games, even though that's still probably going to be a majority of the content I make, but I'll take a look at other games that I love. If it doesn't go well though, I'll revert back to the normal weekly temple by temple videos. But please watch those other videos anyway, because I know we're gonna have a fun time. If you have any video suggestions, I'll definitely take a look at them, and I'll even give you credit in the video if I make a video off your suggestion. I've recently been playing through the Danganronpa games, so that's kind of one of the non-Nintendo series I was looking at doing a couple videos on. But thank you guys so much for the support on the Temple by Temple series. The fact that we've almost reached 500 subscribers on this channel is absolutely insane to me, and let's see if we can shoot for 1,000 by the end of the year. If we can get there before, that would be absolutely amazing, so if you enjoyed this video, why not subscribe to the channel? Alright, that's gonna do it for me. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll be seeing ya.